You're welcome back again, my amazing family. If you are returning as my subscriber, thank you so much for doing this with me. Thank you for believing all through the journey from where we first started. But if today is your first time tuning into this channel, let me reintroduce myself. So this is African Cyber Girl. This is where she learns cloud security in public from zero to cyber shield. If you see some of my videos, I major on Azure and AWS, but we're locked in Azure for now. And today we're going to be doing how, or basically we're going to be working with how I builds a firewall from the ground up. So yeah, like you're working together with me. We're working together. Okay, so enough of the giggling and the chatting. Let us get right into this. So for context, right, I'd like to give like a real life scenario. Like what situation would you be in before you can actually result into using this method? I mean, it just helps you know what to do. A minute. All right, so a small fintech company wants to reduce distractions and stop their users from accessing risky websites. They set up an Azure Firewall rule that allows traffic only to google.com. So users type google.com and it works perfectly. But users type facebook.com, it's blocked by firewall. Users tries random shopping deal.xyz and it's blocked immediately. So let us get right back into our portal and let us see how we can bring this into action. All right, as usual, as always been, we're going to be starting with, creating a resource group, right? So come over here to create a resource group and come over here to create it. Usually, resource group is like the first thing that we create. I mean, if you've been consistent with my videos, you'd see that. And I want to change this region to East US. I want to be working with East US for firewall. And for my group name, I want to give it. I'm feeling a bit African cyber girl today, but let's do something. Okay, you know what? Let's just do African cyber girl, or maybe we can just do. Let's just do firewall because I like to have consistency in my naming conventions. So let's just do firewall RG, firewall resource group. I think that works. Okay, so we'll proceed to reviewing and creating. Straight up, this doesn't usually take a long time, so it should be ready in 5. Good. All right, so the next thing we're going to be creating after this resource group is our firewall. All right, and to find our firewall, you can come here and type firewall, and there we have it. Okay, so come over here to create. Okay, so this is loading and it's loaded. All right, so for our resource group, there's no need to create a new one because we already did. And this was the name that we gave it, Firewall Resource Group. So clicking on that, I want to give this a name of Firewall. Let's just do FF, right? And okay, yeah, we're good, right? So for the availability zone, I don't think we need to do anything on that. So for firewall SKU, let us do standard. All right. And as we proceed further, what is this? Premium firewall support additional capabilities. Okay, we're not doing premium, we're doing standard. So for firewall management, we're going to be doing classic, right? And for our virtual network name, I want to give this just because we are making or building a firewall. Let's just make sure that everything in the naming convention kind of like align. And for this address space, We're going to be using the same address that is inside that placeholder because this is just a hands-on that we're just, getting our hands dirty. And for those of you that might ask, this tutorial was inspired by Rian O'Connell. I took the tutorial on Udemy, so you can always go there and check it out if you want to. So I'm going to be using the IP address in the place order, and that IP address is none other than this one. I mean, you can see it here, right? And for the subnets, the same thing with the placeholder, and this is where we have it. Okay, so for our public IP address, we're actually going to be creating a new one. We're going to be adding a new public IP address. And just because we are creating a firewall, let's just do firewall public IP. That's the way that I want to give it a name. All right, so now that that is done, come here to click OK. And I'm going to be disabling this firewall management NIC because we wouldn't be needing it. All right, so that is created. None. I just want to be sure that that IP address is there. So, okay. All right. Okay. So next to tags and next to review and create. So we're waiting for validation to be approved. All right, passed. And then we proceed to creating this firewall. And we are back because our deployment is complete. That took a while, but then it is completed. So the next thing we're actually going to be doing is to create a subnet. If you noticed, the only thing we were able to create whilst creating this firewall was to create a virtual network. And we need a subnet to be able to connect to the firewall. So to do that, you can come to virtual networks. Okay, here, and so we're going to see the virtual network that we created, which is this one. And we are now going to create a subnet in this virtual network. So if we collapse this or expand rather, you'd see subnet here. And the only subnet we have at the moment is the default Azure Firewall subnet. But that is not what we are going to be creating. So we're actually going to be creating a new one. And you come over there to create subnet. And I want to change this default to, let's just say firewall subnet. All right. And that's been said. Everything else looks good. And we'll come over here to add the subnet. And immediately this subnet has finished adding, we are going to be proceeding to creating our virtual machine. And to do that, we come over here. We can see virtual machine here. And you come over here to create virtual machine. Okay. And we're gradually moving forward. So for the resource group, remember firewall resource group. And for our virtual machine name, we can give it firewall VM. All right, firewall VM. Okay, so for the imaging, you can do Windows Server 2022. That works. Okay, that works. And although we have an error here that this size is not available in zone 1, zone 3 are supported. So we come over here and check this, but we have to uncheck this. Okay, no bother. So we'll move down here to the username. If you know me by now, you know that I like easy admin as my username. because I actually saved the password, so it's easier for me to just, copy and paste. So for the public inbound ports, it's going to be none. All right. So when we click on that, this was what we got. All traffic from the internet will be blocked by default. You will be able to change inbound port rules in the VM or the networking page. That said, everything else looks good. We move on to Dix. So for our Dix type, we are going for standard, right? That has been selected. We move on to networking. So whilst we're waiting for these things to load up, for our virtual network. So for our virtual network, this was what we created, and that is what I'm replacing with that. And for our subnets, we created firewall this, okay, like so. And for our public IP, I'm gonna leave that as that, right? Because even if I expand this, there's no other option there, so I'm leaving that as it is. So coming to management, for management, nothing has to be changed. And move on to monitoring. So for monitoring, the only thing I'll be doing is disabling both diagnostics, and we move on to advanced. So advanced tags, and then review and review and create. Uh, we're waiting for validation. Hopefully, we do not encounter any errors. All right, so our validation passed. We'll move on to create. So we're creating this virtual machine, and now we're waiting for it to completely deploy. And there we have it. Our deployment is complete. Now that we have, so far, we created a resource group, then we created a firewall, and we created our subnet, and then we created our virtual machine. It's a lot, but there's a whole lot more. But nah, there's nothing to be afraid of. Just calm down, right? I got you. Okay. All right. So the next thing we're going to be doing is to create a route table. Okay. And to create a route table, right, we are going to be, the essence of the route table is actually to associate with our subnet so that we are able to, route appropriately. That's the most way I can explain it, but you'd understand better why we need a route table when we start getting our hands dirty. So this is route table here, and we are going to be creating a route table now. Right, so this is create. We're going to create that. Click on create, right? And then we come over here to select our resource group, firewall resource group. Our name is firewall route table. Okay, like so. And then you just proceed to review and create. Okay, and that has to run a final validation and then proceed to create. All right, then. I mean, I didn't have to pause the video. The deployment is complete. So you can go to resource, but I noticed that it just took us to our resource group. All right, but we need the route table. So you can come here and click on the route table here to take you to the route table itself. Okay, so now that we are in the route table, the next thing we're going to be doing is to associate the route table with our subnet. So when we open this, you'd see subnet. You click on subnet here, and you can see associates. All right, so you click on associates, and then our virtual network, remember, it is there, and our firewall subnet is there. So we are good. We're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. All right. So okay, and that is saving that route table for the subnet. Now, the next thing that we are actually going to be doing after this is to create a route. I mean, what's a route table without a route, right? So we are going to be creating a route, and this is route here. Okay, and we come here to add, right? And then the route name I'd like to give it is FW routes. Can add the S. Okay, so for our destination type, we are going to be using IP addresses. Yeah. So for a destination IP address, I actually want to allow everything. And the equivalent for that is just 0.0.0. So usually four zeros, then forward slash and then zero. Yeah, that's good. And this will actually allow everything, right? And the next hub type is our virtual appliance. Now for this hub address is actually going to be the private IP address of our firewall. To be able to get that without altering or, pausing this, I just like to duplicate the tab to just give us more rooms, all right? And I'm logging in with my account. And this duplicated tab is actually going to help us a lot in the long run, because we're going to be copying a lot of public and private IP address to help us, whilst we are setting up some other things. So it's important that we have a duplicated tab. Okay, so we'll come over here in the duplicated tab because we need the private IP of our firewall. We'll go to firewalls here and we click on our firewall here, like so. We can see the private IP here, right? Copy to clipboard, come over here, and then we'll paste it. Right. Now this looks good. This looks yummy. We come to add. Alright, so we've successfully added that route. And now we are now going into doing the rules, simply put. Okay, so the next thing we are going to be doing is coming over here. So this is okay, this is the route table, this is our firewall. So henceforth, this is going to be our new duplicated page, right? We're going to be using this since we are there already. So we'll come over here to Rules Classic. You click on Rules Classic, and then we can see three tabs. We can see the NAT rule collection, we can see the network rule collection, and we can also see the application rule collection. All right, so for the application rule collection, which we'll be starting with, you come over here to adding rule collection. Okay, so one thing I used to, make this stick to heart is when it comes to application, my mind just goes straight to Google, right? So it's easy for me to remember that for this one, I'm working with Google. For the other one, I can work with other things. I don't want to say anything yet. So when we get to that boat, we are going to cross it. Okay, so for the name here, we are going to be using Allow Google. All right. And that is Allow Google. Google, 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 Google. For priority, because the smallest one takes precedence, we are going to be using 200. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be doing is under target FQDNS. We're going to be working in this section of this tab. And the name here is also going to be Allow Google. Allow Google. All right, the service type is going to be IP address like we did. So for the source, we're going to allow everything into the Google. So for our protocol ports, it is usually HTTP 8080, right? Then the comma and then the HTTPS and then 443. So these are the protocol ports that we will be using in this application rule collection, right? This is the port for HTTP and this is the port for H. Oh, this is triple T. Thank God I caught that on time. So this is double T and this is the port for HTTPS. This is the port for just HTTP. You know that the difference is that this is secure, while this isn't. So for our targets, a quick backstory to this. Usually, the first time I tried to do this on my own because the steps were quite a lot. I had to do it on my own before coming here. And I actually used just google.com. No, what I did was I did www.google.com. So this was what I used as my target's FQDNS. So when I was able to gain access to my virtual machine eventually, I noticed that google.com wasn't redirecting. Like when I typed google.com in my web browser, it was also blocked. And I thought I made a mistake. And because the steps were a lot, I started to panic. And then I decided to try something else. Thankfully, I just tried it with the www, that's the World Wide Web, and then it worked. And I knew instantly that I had to be careful. So if you're just using google.com, please, when it's time for you to test it with just google.com. But if you're using www.google.com, then make sure that this is what you're testing with. So for me, I'll be leaving it as www.google.com. I mean, I feel more comfortable that way because it's a familiar experience, right? All right. So yeah, you can proceed to add in that. Okay. So whilst that is also adding, the next thing we're going to be doing is to create. So let's see if we can actually even create them simultaneously. Haven't tried it before, but there's a first time for everything, right? So network rule collection, come over here to add network rule collection like so. So for network rule collection, like I said, application, Google, network for me is DNS, right? So for the name, I'm going to type in allow DNS. For my priority is I'm sticking with 200. And then where the magic begins. So the name is still going to be allow DNS, right? For the protocol, we'll be using UDP, okay? And for the source type is IP addresses. Now for the source, for this particular, you know, network is actually going to be your subnet range address. So now in our new duplicated tab, right, we come over here to, okay, this is our route table. So let's go to our virtual network, right, so that we can copy the, right, so this is our virtual network here. Okay, so come over here to subnet and we can see the subnet that we copied, right? So when you click on this, you see the address range. Now, the address range is actually a range, right? But we need the equivalent of this range. Just to be sure that I'm not copying the wrong thing. So we need the equivalent of this range. And to get the equivalent of this range, I'm going to be using Copilot here to do that. Okay. Okay. All right, so let's wait for the results. So the results, this is the equivalent that we got. Trying to copy this now and it is stressing the, okay, let's just double tap. Oh my God. We've gotten our, okay, so we've been able to copy that, copy. So we come over here, that is going to be our source and then we paste, oh my God. Apologies for that. Copy. How do we do this that it doesn't copy the entire thing? Or should we just cram it then? So 10, 0, 1, 0, then forward slash 24. But that's actually a bad habit, by the way. So 10.0.1, 10.0.1.0, then forward slash dot zero, then forward slash 24. So the one of the key ways to know that you're actually on track is when you see this button, this check mark here. So you can just, be arrested that you are actually on track. So for our destination type, same thing, IP address. But for our destination address, we're going to be given this Google address that is 8.8.8, then comma 8.8, then 4.4. We got a check mark. We're good. Now for the destination port is going to be the normal default port for DNS, and that is port 53. And we get a check mark. And then we can proceed to add in this. Wonderful. So this successfully added the firewall. We're waiting for this to be added. So in order not to waste time, whilst that is also in progress, we are going to proceed to creating this NAT rule collection. Okay, so we come to our duplicated tab here. We've gotten what we need. And then we are going to go to our virtual network. All right. So going to our virtual network here is, I mean, we've done that a couple of times. So that should be a walk in the park. And so now that we're in the subnet, we come over to connected devices, right? Like so. And then we'll come over to connected devices and then we'll click on this first firewall, right? Like so. When we click on that, we proceed to creating, we come over to DNS actually. So we come over to DNS right here and we'll come over to enable. So over here in enable, we'll come over to custom and this is where we will be adding that Google address that we used, which is 8.8.8.8. And then in the second spacing here, it's going to be 8.8, then 4.4. Okay, so that is added. We'll come over here to apply. All right, then we're good to go. So we go back to our duplicated tab and then we can now proceed to add in the NAT rule collection. So come over here, add the NAT rule collection, and then we can give this. So for NAT rule, one way that I get to, know it is that this one is like a remote connection. So RDP, right? Like so, priority remains 200. And then for our name, just as it was stated above, RDP, for our protocol, I'm going to be using TCP because we used UDP for the first one. So our source type is going to be IP addresses. Our source is actually going to be the public IP of our firewall. Okay. And to get the public IP of our firewall, we'll go to the duplicated page here, like so, and come over to, you know what, let's just check firewall straight up, right? And click the firewall here. Okay, so the only thing we can see here is the private IP of our firewall, but we need the public IP. And to get the public IP of our firewall, we just come over to public IP configuration here, and that will give us the IP address of our, you can see that, right? A public IP address. So we copy this, we copy that, come over here. That is what we're going to be using as our source. So our destination address is going to be, okay, so I think I actually made a mistake. So the source is actually supposed to be anything, right? While the destination address is supposed to be the public IP that we just copied here. It's a lot. Sometimes you forget, but I know that there is a sequence in my head. So there's the source, there's the address, and then there's the port. And usually the address is closer to the port, and I'm surprised why it was further. That was when I realized that this is supposed to be anything. My apologies on that. So for our destination port, I mean our DP is going to be 3389. I'm sure somebody guessed that right. So for a translated address is going to be the private IP of our virtual machine. Virtual machines here, and come over here to our virtual machine here, like so. Okay, let's scroll down if you can see. Yeah, so this is the private IP of our virtual machine. That is what we'll be copying and pasting here. So we got that check mark, did we? Okay, let's check. We didn't. There should be a space. Yeah, we did. So we're good. So for our translated port, still the same thing, 3389, because we are RDP. Whoop whoop. And then we come over here to add. Whoop whoop. Okay, so after this step, the next thing we're going to be doing is actually remote connecting to our firewall. Well, that looks good. No, I'm not doing couch shell. Oof, that wasn't what I wanted to check. So this was what I wanted to check actually. That has been updated. And then the next thing we're going to be doing is to enter our virtual machine. But then we need the public IP of our firewall to be able to do that. And then we remote desktop into we would remote desktop into our virtual machine. Okay, like so. This was a long video and it was totally worth it. So usually the way we can do this, right, because we're using an IP address, we have to do it locally on our system. I'm using the Windows laptop, and there's a built-in function for Windows R. So you can see that because I've done it before, it's saved there. I don't know if it's the same thing for Mac or Linux, but think we can always find that out later. So for this, because mine is here already, this is just one way that I can, gain access, right? And then you put the IP address of what you just copied. You can see that, right? And then you connect. Okay. So the username, see what I like easy admin, because it's just easy. And then the password. Okay, like so. And then we can see yes, whoop whoop. And then we are inside our virtual machine. Wow, this was a whole lot. A whole lot. A lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. And if you stayed till the end of this video, if you even stayed up to this point, thank you so much. It really, really means a lot. Thank you for sticking through every of my confusion, my stuttering, my mistakes. Thank you for walking alongside with me up to this moment that we are currently inside of our virtual machine. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And going back to the business of the day, we are going to click on our local server. Okay. And there's something we have to turn off here, which is the IEE. Okay, that's loading up. What's this? Okay. We just have to get rid of this. Like so. Let's just get rid of that. Okay, so we have to turn off the IE enhanced security configuration. And now that that is done, I have to wait for a little while for that to, you know, turn off because it's going to affect our work if we do not do that, right? We keep prompting for an address and we don't want that. And just have to wait a little while. It wouldn't take so long and we would have that turned off. Okay. And all right. So now that that is turned off, the next thing we are going to do is to test our rules to see that that actually reflected. So come over to Microsoft Edge. We're in. A bit terrified though, but we'll start with our data, confirm and continue. And we are in. So we'll start with google.com. Okay, let's just do www.google.com first, all right? And then we can try google.com later. As you can see, that worked, that worked, that worked, that worked, that worked. And now that we've been able to confirm that www.google.com works, we are going to try google.com. Okay, let's see if that's going to work. Oh, and that worked too. Okay, so what happened before? Oh, well, let's not dwell on the past. Okay, let's move forward. Trying to move that, and I see that it's taking away from that environment. But let's just get rid of one tab. Okay, so that we can try facebook.com to see if we can gain access into facebook.com. Okay, so so we can see now that we got an error. It looks like the web page at Facebook's URL might be having issues or moved permanently to a new web address. So you can see that we're unable to get access into facebook.com. Okay, so we're going to try instagram.com. Okay, and we'll see if we'll be able to gain access to. And we got the same error message. It looks like Instagram closed connection. But if we try to go into facebook.com inside our Google, search engine, we'll see that we're able to do that effortlessly. Okay, so I mean that's the whole point of all this video. That's the whole point of the rules that we've been doing. You can only get through to any web service or any website that you want through the search engine. Every search independently will not yield you, will not bring back the result that you're expecting except you go through Google. We're doing this to be able to route traffic through only this route. Okay, so suspicious websites, xyz.com, malicious website is curbed, right? Because everything has to now go through Google search engine. So basically that's all for now. And this is a big thank you to you for sticking with me to this point of the video. And the next video, right, that we're going to be, putting out is log analytics, Azure log analytics. I'll be going through with a Microsoft documentation. So I do not think that you would like to miss that. If you've stayed to this point and you've not subscribed to this channel, this is your cue to do that. Subscribe to this channel. I'll be part of my journey from zero to cyber shield. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time in my next video.